Hi, everyone. Bill Wrenchler in the 1011 Hour streaming studio. Hope everyone's having an excellent Monday. And on Mondays, really one of the best days of the week because we get to hang out with Josh Planos, Better Business Bureau, for our Consumer Safety Spotlight segment. Josh, how is the weekend for you? How's your Monday going?
Best days of the week, Bill. That is quite the lead in. I
Because
guess you only
we
have.
get to hang out, Josh.
I agree completely. My weekend was fantastic. I also love Mondays. Hopefully, everyone was able to get outside for a bit and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the wonderful temps. I can't recall a lot of Marches in which we were able to work ahead on summer projects, but this was certainly one of those weekends.
I think we can definitively say that this March has come in like a lamb. So we'll
Hmm.
have to kind of see how it goes out. So we'll see. But this is a big week, especially I'm assuming for you guys at the BBB. This must be kind of like your Super Bowl week because it is National Consumer Protection Week. Can you kind of just tell us what that is?
Yeah, so National Consumer Protection Week is March 3rd to the 9th, and it's really an opportunity to get a better sense of what information you share, how you disclose information to people in an ever increasingly digital age, how you go about making decisions based around financial opportunities. It's really a opportunity for you to reflect on the decisions you make, both on behalf of yourself, perhaps on behalf of your business, on behalf of your family. But it's really a catch-all opportunity to get caught up on maybe some best practices that uh, folks have a habit of avoiding throughout the calendar year. I mean, certainly, I mean, we're already in March, and I know that a lot of folks, find that quite shocking. But this is really an opportunity to determine some best practices and a course of action for how you go about making consumer-oriented decisions, which is essentially everything that you do inside and outside the home.
And so, usually, Josh, when we talk every week, again, you're excellent with coming up with sort of timely topics for us to talk about, whether it's, again, spring break travel, Prime Days, and, Black Friday holiday shopping or concert tickets, whatever that might be. And everything that we talk about, is kind of geared towards those niche topics. But there is just some general overarching advice that, if you can follow some fairly simple steps, it's going to keep you out of trouble probably more times than not.
Without a doubt, it's incredible that some of the most critical safeguards against scams and fraud in 2024 remain some of the most foundational. There's a reason why they're passed along from generation to generation, and certainly there are some that are a little bit more specific to the time, right? But a lot of them really revolve around things that are foundational and taught at a very young age. Things like treading carefully with someone you haven't met before, right? I mean, as foundational as that might seem, when you're in the throes of panic or someone is putting you under pressure, you have a habit of forgetting some of those foundational lessons. But this week is really an opportunity to think more critically about them and the ways in which they help determine the decisions you make. Both on behalf of yourself and your family. So, our number one tip, right, for safeguarding against the vast majority of the scams that we monitor at the BBB, which are incredibly sophisticated. But the number one tip is to not send money to someone you have not met. And I think for a lot of folks, it's of course, that's something that would consider. I can promise you that if you're not thinking, actively thinking about these lessons, you will be called at a moment when you least expect it, and you won't have that recourse or that instinct, right, to kind of activate the lessons that you have been instructed for probably the entirety of your life. To own the moment and to not be left a victim.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things that it seems you say it and you're like, well, duh. Why would I ever send money to someone I don't know? But, again, throughout our segments, we've talked, these scams and things like that are $1 billion. We're talking billions of dollars. And so people do send money to people they don't know. And they think it's because that they might be in trouble or a loved one is in trouble. But again, if you don't know them, don't send it.
Without a doubt. We have other tips that are a little bit more of the moment, right? Like the links or attachments that you receive in unsolicited emails or text messages. Don't click on those. I think we have a habit as a species to look into things and to be curious, and I think that's truly a wonderful trait. However, in the digital age, that's really problematic when all it takes is a single click to have a malware download initiated on your device, right? And I'd like to think that we could be a little bit more trusting of people. However, in the digital space, it's really important to tread carefully and honestly to inject a healthy dose of skepticism into your diet, such that when you get that opportunity in your email, that you think, is this something that realistically could be brought to my front door? Is this something that I enabled? Is this something that I signed up for, or is this something that is targeting me? Right, and being able to delineate that is going to be of increasing importance, but also having that skepticism to not click on those links or those attachments if they're telling you that a product is coming to your front door, or hey, there's an invoice that is outstanding. That's going to be really important as well.
And Josh, I'm not sure if you have the number off the top of your head. It seems like a number you probably would have off the top of your head, but the proportion of purchases that are made online versus in store now, again, I'm assuming we're maybe 50-50, if not online even higher.
Much higher. I would say it's closer to 70-30 than it is 50-50.
And
Based on
so,
what we
yeah, and so again, when you're buying online, making sure you're buying from the right place.
Yeah, without a doubt. There are so many products out there that it can frankly be dizzying to even go to a grocery store and you have 100 types of peanut butter. Uh, when you're online, that's compounded even further, right? So you're going to see a whole lot of products that might be uniquely tailored to your interests. In some cases, real companies that are kind of working the algorithm such that they can get their advertisement or their product in front of you. But you're also going to see a lot of companies that maybe you haven't heard of before. And yes, you could probably make the argument that there's never been more companies in all of human history than there are right now. And it's never been easier to get into touch with them. However, you want to make sure if you're going to transact with a company, that company is deserving of your business. And one way you do that is by looking for that proven track record, right? By looking into whether or not that company can be trusted. Because anytime you provide your personal or your payment information to someone or something, you are gambling. And much as we'd love to think that everyone has our best interests in mind, there are some out there that really don't. And frankly, are undeserving of the business to begin with, to say nothing of whether or not they are a legitimate business. So you want to make sure that you're doing your research on any and all transactions. There is not something that is too small to so as to be avoided, right? I mean, we've heard of folks who have had transactions under $10 that resulted in identity theft, right? So it's not to say that you're only doing research when you're doing things like purchasing a home or a vehicle, but you should really be thinking about research as an integral part of the decisions that you make at all levels of your life.
And obviously, a great place to start with your research is with the Better Business Bureau. Again, you guys have thousands of companies in your guys' database. Again, reviews and reviews from people who have transacted and done business with those businesses.
Yeah, it's a fantastic place to start. Certainly, we don't want folks to feel like this is the only way to make your decisions, but it's a free, publicly available resource for you to have a better sense of whether that company has that proven track record that presumably you would want to know before you give them any amount of money. Maybe even more importantly, you have information on contact information. If something were to go awry, you could get a hold of that company, or they have legitimate contact information that has been vetted, that has been proven to be authentic and accessible. And then whether or not that company has actually responded to complaints in the past. And again, much as we might like to assume that everything's going to go smooth sailing with every transaction, the reality is that's just not the way the world works. And you want to be working with a company that at least sees its customers eye to eye and gives them the time of day whenever something does come up that deserves some negotiation.
And I think probably what happens is a lot of us maybe panic, say the AC needs to get serviced, or you need, to spray for bugs in the spring or around your property. And you just Google search, AC repair near me or exterminators near me, and you're just clicking on the first thing that you see, again, a lot of times you're probably okay. But again, that's where, again, some of these issues can start to arise. And the BBB,
And
maybe starting there is a good place to start.
scammers are incredibly aware of what those key terms are. In some cases, they are paying for services that are providing them with detailed analytics on consumer behavior, so they can get in front of as many consumers as possible, right? Because that's the way that they're going to be able to be successful in their line of work. Would like to think that the things that show up high up on browser search results are all authentic, all legitimate, all deserving of business. It's incredibly difficult for these platforms to police that sort of activity, and we know definitively that some of those high search results are purchased by folks who are frankly completely undeserving of your time and attention. But they know that in the attention economy, appearing high up on a search result is a really good place to target a wide swath of consumers.
Yeah, every time I get to the second page on my Google result, I'm even more skeptical than I am on the first page. It's some prime real estate, and then as far as you mentioned, identity theft with purchases as small as $10. Identity theft is something that can just wreck you for a long, long time, and it is very hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. So again, your personal information, whether it's debit card numbers, social security numbers, even just your address, you got to treat those like they're gold, right?
Without a doubt, that information is your currency these days. And with a handful of pieces of information, you can really create a very convincing, what we call a digital composite of a consumer. And I think that's really frightening, because that was not really the intention of the internet, and the intent of having consumer data readily available was to do that. But with a handful of pieces of information, once it's out there, it's very difficult to ever get that information back under wraps. Identity theft is a years-long process for many victims. So anytime that information is going out, make sure that it is deserving of being put into a gamble, right? And into a game of chance, regardless of there's a reason why that scammers are looking to impersonate legitimate businesses. It's because they know that there's a certain amount of trust that is engendered by that company. So in some cases, it's not, you didn't do your research, you didn't do your due diligence. You thought you were working with, a multinational corporation that has a proven track record. But, again, that kind of goes back to, doing a little bit of, double checking on the URL in question, but also reaffirming every time you swipe your credit card or you pass that information along to someone or something that that there is an opportunity for someone to wedge their way into that transaction and to make off with that information for the worse.
Yeah, and we can put all these tips into place and more, and sometimes, again, it's called a scam for a reason. Sometimes you just get scammed, and there's literally nothing that you could have done about it. So again, we want to put, as you say, I have been learning through all these segments, we want to put as many layers of protection around us as we can.
Yes, if you think about a transaction, it's never going to be completely foolproof unless you're there with the person. And even then, there are some pitfalls, right? But if you can stack these decisions on top of one another, you give yourself the best possible window with which to work, such that when you leave that you checked all of the boxes you could have. And right now, there are a lot of boxes to check, right? And that's not going away, right? In 2024 and beyond. The amount of sophistication that these scams operate with require us to do our due diligence in ways that half a century ago would have been unfathomable, would have been completely unreasonable. And today it is best practice to be doing additional layers of research before you transact for anything.
And so, Josh, as we wrap things up, again, we were talking before the segment started, talking about how this weekend daylight saving time begins. We're going to spring forward. We're going to lose that hour of sleep Saturday night, but we're going to get the extra hour in the evening. I was just mentioning, hey, this is a great time of year to swap out the batteries in your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. And you had added a tidbit that I had never, ever thought of during this, 2-time-a-year clock change, and that is to do what?
to check your credit report. There are 3 credit report agencies out there. You want to make sure you're checking with all 3 if at all possible. Again, things like National Consumer Protection Week, they sound like a big deal, and it is. But it's an opportunity to set a notification for yourself to evaluate the decisions you make along the way, and maybe to check in on some of the security settings that you have on your devices and on your accounts, and ensuring that 10 years don't go by and you've been using the same exact password for all of your bank accounts, right? So this is really a window with which to understand where your credit report is at the current moment. And if you're looking to work toward, say, purchasing a home, or taking out a loan, or any major life decision, this is an opportunity to evaluate where that credit score is currently, and maybe some steps you can take to safely work toward a future in which you're able to secure that home, or that big life opportunity, or that project that you've been thinking about. But 2 months went by, and suddenly we're a quarter of the way through the 2024 calendar. So good opportunity to evaluate where your credit score is, and where you want to get it to.
Yeah, we hear, I feel like, so often on the news nowadays about some data breach from some company, and personal information of X amount of number of consumers was exposed. And I think a lot of us just think, oh, well, that's not good. But to do that, again, twice a year, in March and November, run that credit report check, make sure your personal information isn't floating around out there, and something unsavory isn't happening in your name.
In some cases, I mean, these are completely free checks, right? And in a lot of cases, these are embedded within your mobile banking apps, depending on where you bank. So this might be just as simple as, looking into your bank app, and seeing, where your credit journey is, and what that looks like. But if we can, be evaluating things even twice a year, promise that will be so much more preventative for the scam types and frauds that we monitor than the current course of action, which is folks will check in pretty much only if they receive an alert that something has gone wrong, and we want to avoid that.
Josh, I appreciate your time as always. Again, like I said, Mondays are one of my favorite days because we get to hang out. Is there anything else you want to that you want to leave the folks with before we let you go?
There are a lot of helpful webinars out there this week, and every week, but especially this week. The BBB is proud to have partnered with the FTC on a number of these webinars, which, again, I know everyone has very, very busy lives, but if you can set aside even just 30 minutes to be thinking about consumer protection and the ways in which you can best safeguard against scams and fraud, you'll be able to protect not just yourself, but ideally pass that information on to someone else who can benefit from it. So I consider us all fraud fighters in 2024. And what that means is it requires all of us to protect everyone.
100%. Josh, thank you as always for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Again, that was Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. Appreciate his time. Again, every Monday, and again, National Consumer Protection Week. So again, like he said, just take a few minutes to kind of evaluate where you're at, and again, what you're doing, and maybe tinker with some of those practices that you have set up. But appreciate everyone for tuning in and for watching again as always. Keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of your latest news, weather, and sports. And until next time, folks, hope everyone has a nice Monday.